So I just got back from seeing Terminator Genisys, and while it's fresh in my mind, I want to talk about it. I had way more fun watching Terminator Genisys than I probably should have, based on the critic reviews. Critics are shitting all over this movie, but I actually really enjoyed it, in spite of what the critics were saying. Let me start by saying I'm a huge fan of the James Cameron Terminator films. Anything else really doesn't exist to me. But this movie pays tribute to the first two movies in a really interesting way, and the first half of the movie is all about that, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the film. This review is going to be heavy on spoilers because I really want to talk about the movie. So this is for the people that have seen the movie and want to talk the details. So the first half of the movie plays out as a rehash of the first two films, but goes in different directions, different timelines. And I really like, where they go with this. They give you a lot more with the time travel aspect, which everyone is saying that it's so confusing, but I don't know, I seem to follow it pretty okay. Okay, part of this is nostalgia, okay? Like I said, I'm a huge fan of the first two movies, so seeing Arnie in the role again, seeing him squaring off against the T-1000, I was like a kid again. So, and seeing him fight himself in the 1984 version, this Terminator movie gave you everything that you wanted that Salvation didn't have. Salvation was completely forgettable, and Terminator 3 was just a huge parody on itself. It was just a big joke. So I think this movie did a lot of things well. Let's talk about the performances. Arnold is the Terminator, okay? This is the role he was born to play, and even at his age now, he still kills it as the Terminator. I really don't think anyone else could play that role. Jai Courtney, okay, based on what everyone was saying, I should have hated Jai Courtney as Reese. And my initial thoughts, seeing him in the trailers and everything, it didn't fit. But, as this movie developed, I actually believed him as Kyle Reese. I actually believed that he was in love with Sarah Connor, and I didn't completely hate Jai Courtney. I can't believe I'm actually saying this. But he, I think they hyped it up so bad that he's so terrible that I was expecting a terrible performance. Now, yes, did some of the scenes seem like acting? Yes. Okay, he's no Michael Biehn. He'll never replace the original Kyle Reese. But I think he did a great job with what he was given. Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor, same thing. Both of these actors had huge shoes to fill. No one can replace Linda Hamilton. You just can't do it. But I think she did a great job with what she was given. I like how they showed the picture from the first Terminator movie. Now, I couldn't really tell, but I think they put Emilia Clarke in there and recreated that picture. This is what this film did so great. They recreated certain scenes from the first two films, literally shot for shot. And as a huge fan of the films, it definitely brings you back. So is part of that a nostalgia factor? Is part of that, are people that are not familiar with the franchise going to feel what I felt? Probably not, because I'm a huge fan of these movies. So yeah, of course, I'm biased to these films. But I don't just love anything that you slap the name Terminator on. I was not happy with Terminator 3, and I don't even consider Salvation a Terminator movie. This Batman is John Connor. This is John Connor. So anyway, back. So those are the pros. I really actually enjoyed the storyline. I'm glad that they gave us more with the T-1000, with the time travel aspects. Seeing them testing out the T-1000 models. Now, where it gets weird. Okay, the negatives. Yeah, the whole plot line with John Connor as a Terminator, I wasn't really buying into it, and I didn't find it as interesting as the first half of the film. So yeah, it's not a perfect movie. But let's talk about the ending, okay? So we got Actually, let's talk about another element which I really thought kind of surprised me from a Terminator film. If you can admit that you cried at the end of Terminator 2, then I think you're pretty confident in yourself as a man. But this is something you don't expect from a Terminator movie, is to actually feel some emotion. The connection that you have between Sarah Connor and the Terminator. In this film, she's raised by a Terminator, and she views him as a father. She calls him Pops. So they have this connection here, and Kyle's telling her it's just a machine. How, he can't feel anything. He could be programmed to kill you, and that's what they do. They infiltrate. And she's saying no. And then what I thought was really interesting is when they traveled forward in time to 2017, and he and the Terminator had to wait all those years to get there. You see the bunker that they have, and he's got her picture and the drawings that she made for him, and you kind of think, like, does this Terminator actually feel emotions? Can this machine actually feel emotions? At the end, when Arnold is destroying John Connor in the time machine, he says to Kyle Reese, "Protect my Sarah." And the way he said that, it was like he actually cared about Sarah Connor. Not, if it was just a machine program, they would just say, "Protect Sarah Connor," like with no emotion. But the way he said, "Protect my Sarah," it kind of hinted at the fact that this machine can feel emotion. Especially, it's explained in the earlier movies that the more time that he spends with humans, the more human-like he becomes. And that's explained, in a sense to make him a better killer. But in this movie, it actually makes him more human, and possibly with the ability to feel emotions. So I think this movie is actually deeper than people let on, if you actually think about it, and if you're invested in the lore of the Terminator franchise. So overall, I think this movie did what it was supposed to do. It gave you a lot of insight into the Terminator world that the other movies just brush over. I was really interested to see in the time travel aspect of the movie, and while convoluted at times, it wasn't really hard to follow for me. But these are things that I've always thought about with the time travel aspect. And it was really cool to see the focus away from John Connor and saying, maybe we really don't need John Connor, In fact, maybe it's better if John was never born at all. Let's talk about the huge reveal at the end. Arnold is now a fucking T-1000. For everyone saying that the trailer gave away all the huge spoilers, this is the biggest one in my opinion, and if they continue the franchise, seeing Arnold now as a T-1000, I think could be very interesting in the right hands. If the movie just ends this way, I think that would be a very interesting way to end the series. Especially, Arnold's not getting any younger. How much more could he play this role, and really, what more can you do in this role? And now with him being a T-1000, anyway, overall, I enjoyed this movie way more than I should have. I had a lot of fun with it. It's leaps and bounds beyond Terminator 3 and Salvation. It will never compare to the first two movies. Those are classic movies. They're two of my favorite movies of all time. But I really enjoyed this movie. I love seeing Arnold in the role again. So, critics, what's all the fuss about? It was actually a lot of fun. It really dug into the history of the Terminator franchise. It gave me everything I wanted. That's it.